And what's going on my sports junkies, my four lifers, the diehard, and the sad little people whose team ain't never won a damn thing. But hey, I can relate. Welcome to all my listeners, whether you're watching on YouTube or tuning in audio only. This is another episode of Break the Huddle podcast. I'm your humble host, Don Deuce. Today, we're breaking down the Cavs' historic sweep of the Heat, a Warriors-Rockets Game 4 thriller, Shedeur Sanders' wild NFL draft slide, and prank call drama, and Saquon Barkley's Trump golf controversy that's got fans heated. But don't worry, just grab your jersey, settle in, and let's break the huddle. Yeah. And before we kick things off, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe on YouTube, and follow Break the Huddle on all your favorite platforms. Whether you're watching or listening, don't miss out on any of the real talk we've got coming your way, man. All right, let's get into it. Hey, we're starting with the NBA playoffs, and trust me, Cleveland put on a clinic tonight. You got to hear about it. Let's dive into the Cavs. Game 4 beatdown that sent Miami to the gulag. Sent them down. Yeah. Cavaliers crushed Heat in historic Game 4 sweep. Hey, they brought the brooms out. It was early, and they brought the nice brooms. The nice brooms you get from the expensive brooms. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know where you get an expensive broom, but the Cavs got them. And for Cleveland, this 138-83 win marks the fourth largest playoff blowout in NBA history, outscoring Miami by a record 122 points over 4 games. Look, there's a lot of things I can say about this game, but straight off the rip, the Cavs came out firing. They came out punching. And I think that was really it. They set the tone early, and it was a suffocating tone. It felt like the Miami Heat had no answers for the well-balanced offensive attack by the Cleveland Cavaliers. He had multiple players in double figures. Donovan Mitchell, what a solid game. He led the show. Ty Jerome had backup with Ty Jerome, and then he had Evan Mobley with 17 points, couple blocks, few rebounds. Everybody chipped in. It was a well-balanced effort all across the board. Now, for Miami, they just looked like they didn't have no fight. They had no more fight left in them. They've been getting ran through the last couple games, and it looked like in this Game 4, a lot of the starters were just tired of it. Bam had a really tough time against this Cavs defense. Jared Allen and Evan Mobley really put him in the walls of Jericho. He really locked them up. And by halftime, the Cavs were leading 72-33. I saw somewhere that this is the third worst playoff half differential, and they really just smoked them, straight out smoked them. Now, what I take away, this game was over early. The starters retired like middle of the fourth. But in this game, you got to really highlight the big man dominance, right? You got to highlight Jared Allen's 14 points, 12 rebounds, 6 steals, tying a Cavs playoff record. He basically anchored the drop coverage. I mentioned what they did to Bam tonight. That drop coverage that they were playing, it really limited his shots. It kind of got him out of his rhythm, uncomfortable all night, and Bam only ended up with 12 points. When I watch this Cavs team and I watch them apply pressure, what I really like seeing is the big man's versatility, right? They have this ability to switch on defense, and the bigs are able to stay on the floor, which makes them long defensively, right? Which makes them able to get up in shooters' faces, protect the rim with Jared Allen's ability to shut down Miami drives. And then accompanied with the firepower from the bench, right? I spoke about Ty Jerome's performance. But I didn't get a chance to mention DeAndre Hunter's performance. Ty Jerome, DeAndre Hunter make up a powerful bench unit. 18-5 from Ty, 19 from DeAndre Hunter, 3 or 4 from the 3. And it really looks like that Cavs trade in the middle of the season is really paying off for the Cavaliers. Cleveland looks like a strong title contender. And I'm not too sure if this version of the Cavs is faking it or not. I really like what I'm seeing because this first round really showed me that they're willing to never take their foot off the gas and to apply pressure at all times. And in Miami, he felt that for 4 games, right? Even though the next round is going to be more challenging, most likely against the Indiana Pacers, I'm interested in seeing this Cavs team. I have believed that there's not going to be too much of a drop-off or an offensive drop-off from this unit. After this game, the Miami Heat is going to have to go to the drawing board, see what they're going to see what type of key ads they're looking for in the offseason because they need to find more ways to get better. After trading away Jimmy Butler to the Golden State Warriors and then getting Andrew Wiggins, when Andrew Wiggins was really a non-factor in these playoff games, he hasn't really shown up and he hasn't done much to warrant a solid future in Miami. Maybe he comes back playing better. Who knows, right? But as of right now, Eric Spoelstra should be scratching his head on what the future of this team looks like. All in all, Cleveland's a juggernaut, man. Honestly, I just think this first round sweep kind of proves that they're really title contenders. They're not playing around. I feel like a team that might be playing around, you might drop one, but they seem super focused and they're focused on getting healthy, right? So they had to take care of these guys so they could get the needed and the added rest headed into the next round because they know that Indiana Pacers series is going to be pretty challenging and the Indiana Pacers are not going to lay down. See, now we got to head west. For this Warriors-Rockets matchup. Game 4 that kept us literally glued to the screen, man. Warriors and Rockets battling tight Game 4 showdown. The Warriors and the Rockets clash in Game 4 nail-biter. The Warriors took a 3-1 lead with Curry and Butler facing the Houston Young Guns in a tight contest. And I really like this game, man. This game was fire. Now, the Warriors won this off the back of Jimmy Butler. He came alive in the second half. While also, when you look on the Rockets side, Jalen Green had a terrible performance. Jalen Green had about 8 points. He scored single digits. A couple of games ago, he dropped 38. So now you're sitting there and you're wondering, like, why can't I get this? Why can't I get this type of performance every game? With somebody as young as Jalen Green, this entire Rockets team is young. This is their really first time really in the trenches in the mud, except outside of Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet, right? And Steven Adams. But for the most part, this team is young. They need to learn. They need to grow. And that's why I originally picked the Warriors to win this series. I never thought that. I always thought that experience will always trump youth because youth don't know how to actually get it together and stay together and keep it consistent, i.e. Jalen Green's performance. You cannot score 38 and then another game score 7 or another game score 8. It doesn't work like that. You gotta be able to insert yourself. Now, compared to another young guy in the West, Anthony Edwards, you see how he inserts himself. He makes sure that he gets his, and he has found ways to consistently affect the game. And that is something that Jalen Green is going to need to work on because at this point, the Warriors are going to go and close out this series, and they're going to move on. And they're going to advance into the Western Conference playoff. They kept the game close with Şengün. He put on a masterclass. Şengün dropped 31, 10, and 5. He had 2 steals. He was doing his thing. He was trying to will his guys to the win. Fred VanVleet chipped in with 25. Amin Thompson had 17. But like I said, at the end of the day, Jalen Green having 8 was one of the biggest X factors in this game. Now, if you just get a little bit more from Jalen Green, maybe the Rockets win. But nonetheless, the Warriors beat them 109-106. I like the Rockets' game plan. They're going all out. They're trying to limit what Steph Curry does. They're trying to do everything they can to limit what Steph Curry does. But it looks like Steph Curry has help. Steph Curry actually has help because you got Jimmy Butler, and he's a load to deal with. Jimmy Butler only had 4 points in the first half, and he ends up with over 16 in the second half. I think he personally scored over 14 in the fourth quarter. He was magnificent. He was 12 and 12 from the line. Those are just things that they didn't have before him. They didn't have somebody that could really be a real running mate with Steph Curry. And now that they have it, I think a lot of people might be sleeping on the Warriors. I think at the end of the day, the NBA playoffs is all about matchups, and your performance changes by the round, right? Your performance, your matchups, they continuously change by the round, so you never know. The Warriors are actually showing me that they have the ability to get to a Western Conference final. No doubt about it. But all in all, the Warriors vets are just schooling all the Houston Young Guns. Curry's a playoff assassin, and Butler's return and his experience getting to a finals, willing a team to a finals twice, added with Curry and Draymond's final appearances, I think this really makes a solid team. Also, Moody Benter one. This is a team with real experience, and I just don't think that Houston ever really had a chance of overcoming said experience. I gotta keep it a bean. All right, man. We gotta get into some other drama in the sports. That was enough. That's enough NBA basketball. But let's switch some gears to the NFL with some draft drama that's got the league buzzing, right? All right, with everything going on, we gotta talk about what happened to Shedeur Sanders in the NFL draft this past weekend. I'm a little late. I'm like a day late to the show, but it doesn't matter because we need to discuss, right? Look. He had a draft slide, and it was a historic draft slide. He was projected top 5. Shedeur slid all the way to the 5th round, with the Browns selecting him 144th. Literally never happened. It's never happened. I'm not saying that players never slid, but player never slid like this, and that's a fact. But if I'm being honest, I think that there was a lot of things at play when it came to Shedeur Sanders' overall draft process, right? I think that the NFL front offices judged him before even meeting it. I think that was starting things on the wrong foot. I think they never gave him a chance to begin with. I think they listened to whatever the critics had to say about him, and I think they soaked that in, and I think they made up their mind on who Shedeur Sanders was. This is me just speculating. From all the media reports that describes his character, that the way they talk about Shedeur, and this is what I believe what happened during his process, and this is what I surmise from listening to the several different reports, right? Walk with me. Now, reasons for the fall. There has to be reasons for the fall. Now, a lot of people sit up and say it was race. I don't think that's the entirety of the picture. We have to paint the full picture for people to understand why he fell. Now, what is fact, right? Teams actually questioned Shedeur's pocket presence, opposed to his counterparts, maybe like Dylan Gabriel, who's a little bit more athletic, and they feel like maybe he could get out of more harm's way just from an athletic standpoint. And I think his NFL draft comments didn't help his situation either, when he talked about how he's a culture changer and things like that. And he said that with such confidence because that is what he believed. He went to Jackson State and he changed a culture. He implemented a winning type of culture, or he helped facilitate that. Now, what a lot of people took away from that was this man is overly confident. This man is cocky. They took a lot of negative things from that. I think this is where some of the racial undertones start to shape during this process, because not only have the NFL owners and the front office people, like I stated, they have been forming this idea of who Shedeur Sanders is. And then I feel like those comments made at the NFL Combine was starting to help kind of fan some of those beliefs. But those words used to describe his attitude. It's the same type of behavior that they champion in players like Aaron Rodgers, in Tom Brady. They call it passion. They call it confidence. They call confidence moxie. Moxie. You know what I'm saying? They find positive adjectives to attach to these personality types, but then they'll tell you, "Oh, well, Tom Brady has won. He deserves it." Man, why y'all didn't attach those negatives to Johnny Manziel when he was coming out? Why I didn't attach those negatives to Baker Mayfield when he was coming out? I'm not comparing Shedeur Sanders to those quarterbacks, but I am comparing the language in which we talk about people, in which we talk about black people. And that's just something that can't get overlooked, right? But I'll keep going because I think Shedeur Sanders, like I said, I think he fanned the flames because now what he did, he went into those meetings. From plenty of reports have said that they feel like Shedeur Sanders tanked his meetings because maybe he received some bad advice, maybe from his dad. But he tanked those meetings and he didn't actually give these people the opportunity to maybe actually get to know the real Shedeur Sanders. Because here's the disconnect. What they say about Shedeur Sanders does not look like how he is treated by his loved ones. How he's treated by his teammates. I get confused when I hear a ton of negatives about Shedeur Sanders when I just don't believe that to be true. But what I have put together is that he went in there, he tried to dictate a lot of things. And if we're being honest, I think we have to admit that Shedeur Sanders and his camp, aka Dion, they may have overplayed their hand. They had a overwhelming sense of self, and it was not necessarily the reality of their actual situation. Who they thought they were not. So when Shedeur opted to not throw at the Senior Bowl, he opted to not throw at the Combine, he tanked his job interview. But we, the people, experts, people who did the mock, they know Shedeur Sanders. They know Shedeur Sanders is a top 3 talent quarterback-wise in this draft. They know that. But if you tank the interviews and then all you did was confirm everybody's biases that they made up of you, it may not turn out well in your favor because these people are looking for leaders of their organization and you showed up to the interview basically drunk. Well, not really drunk, but you know what I'm saying? You showed up not putting your best foot forward. And this is how we got it. I think all things can be true. I think that this situation has some racial undertones. I think Shedeur Sanders has played a fault in his situation. I think Dion has some fault in this situation. But then those racial undertones start creeping right back in, right? Keep creeping right back in because it felt like teams tried to humble him. And maybe within that humbling, maybe they were telling some sort of truth, right? But at the end of the day, it no longer became about talent. It became about, man, I don't want to put my franchise in the hands of this guy. And everything they felt about Shedeur Sanders is why he fell in the draft. Because we both know Tyler Shuck is not better than Shedeur Sanders. No offense to Tyler Shuck. No offense. I think he's a decent quarterback. He's 25. He's probably stuck in his ways. Shedeur Sanders has a ton of room to grow, and he should have displayed what type of person he is in front of the teams that he met. Because in reality, the quarterback market in this draft, just in terms of quarterback needy organizations, it wasn't a lot. So your options was not a lot. He really should have put his best foot forward. But the idea that the teams were trying to humble him, you know what I mean? It felt like to a lot of people, to fans, to people in the media, that this is the NFL trying to humble a black man. And a lot of people will say, well, the first quarterback was a black person. Another quarterback that I drafted, he was black. But I'm not saying, that's why I said there's racial undertones. It's hard to spot. It's 2025. It's hard to actually spot when people are being racist in certain aspects. It's just hard to pinpoint that. That's why I will acknowledge that it feels that. That's why I'm only acknowledging the racial undertones here, present in this situation. We all have to be honest. The teams didn't see him as elite, and that caused a slide. But he didn't deserve to be drafted and picked where he was at. But outside of that, Shedeur Sanders was finally picked. What I liked about it is he stayed positive. He was very mature about the situation. He celebrated with his family, and he danced like he was pick number 3. I think that was an important part. You can't break his spirit. I think what all the NFL did was turn somebody who was a hard worker. They forced him to work even harder. They forced him to get it out of the mud, and they forced him to maybe focus just a little bit more on football. At the end of the day, Shedeur Sanders is well taken care of. He don't really need the money that he potentially missed out on. I mean, hey, everybody could use a $45 million. Everybody can use a $45 million. I ain't tripping. I feel you. But he ain't going to die. He going to keep working. He got tons of endorsements. He going to keep working. I think the Browns is a perfect organization for him. If he could just put his head down, I think that he can manage his way through a crowded quarterback room that consists of Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, rookie, Deshaun Watson, hurt Achilles. He'll figure it out. Unfortunately, we got to talk about before Shedeur Sanders was picked by the Browns, he was pranked. Somebody prank called Shedeur Sanders, posing as Saints GM, using a leaked number, and they basically told him that they was going to pick him, but he had to wait a little longer. I'll let you guys see what's going on.
Hey, is this Shedeur? This is Mickey Loomis here, the GM of the New Orleans Saints. How you doing? This is Mickey Loomis here, GM of the Saints.
How you doing?
Good. How are you, man?
Good. Been waiting on you.
Yeah, we have. It's been a long wait, man. We're gonna take you with our next pick right here, man.
This ain't gonna be nothing to do.
But you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer, man. Sorry about that.
What does that mean? What? What did he say? I don't know. How you gonna ask us what it means and you was on the phone? You heard that?
You said you're gonna have to wait a little bit longer.
Sorry about that. Why did he call? What the fuck? I don't know what that was. It's 50-50. But nobody got this number though.
It was private.
Huh? Did they just troll, bro?
Okay.
Man, he just got trolled, bro. They tripping now, fam. Now I'm gonna crash out, bro.
I wanna highlight that Shedeur Sanders was constant platinum Big Brother, right? Like he put on a Big Brother masterclass this past weekend. My boy was ready to crash for Shedeur, man. He kept him in high spirits. That was really nice of him. But y'all see what's going on. These kids decided to take it upon themselves to turn Shedeur Sanders' situation into a laughing matter. It was inconsiderate. It was classless, tasteless. It was whatever you want to fucking call it. It was not good. These are bad people. This is what I categorize somebody as a bad person, because you intentionally went out of your way. You intentionally went out of your way to try and humiliate somebody during a low moment in their life. But you know what's crazy? This isn't just random. This isn't that random. I wonder why it's not that random. This is the thing. Now, this prank call was facilitated by Jax Uber. Now, if I had to play back that video, right? Homie right here in the tan whitish sweater sitting is Jax Ubrick. Jax Ubrick facilitated this prank call. Jack Ubrick is the son of Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator Jeff Ubrick. People were categorizing what Jax and company did as a childish prank. But nothing about what he did was childish. Jax Ulbrich is 21 years old. Everything he did was deliberate. Jax Ulbrich, first of all, got Shedeur Sanders information from his dad's laptop or iPad. And he just had the the numbers sitting around. So Jax Ulbrich took it upon himself to take down some numbers and prank some people on draft day. That was his grandmaster plan. That was his bright idea. Not for once thinking about how the people being drafted are going to feel. Not for once thinking about, oh, what would happen if I got caught and what would happen to my dad? Bro never thought what would happen to my dad if they caught me doing it. That's how like self-centered, total blatant disregard for authority and rules and anything. And I don't care. People can sit up here and tell me that I'm overreacting. I really do think it's fucking disgusting to do that to people. These athletes spend their entire life for these moments. And here you come trying to get a cheap laugh. Boy, you never accomplished anything in your life. You never amounted to nothing in your life. That's why you minimize everything that these athletes have worked for, because you never amounted to nothing. So you can never get it. And that's how I feel about anybody that has minimized what Jax Ulbrich did down to a childish prank. But that's just my opinion. Once the internet discovered it was Jax Ulbrich, the Falcons had to then put out a statement. They put out a statement saying earlier in the week, Jax Ulbrich, the 21-year-old son of defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich, unintentionally came across the draft contact phone number for Shedeur Sanders off an open iPad while visiting his parents' home and wrote the number down to later conduct a prank call. Jeff Ulbrich was unaware of the data exposure or any facets of the prank and was made aware of the above only after the fact. The Atlanta Falcons do not condone this behavior and send our sincere apologies to Shedeur Sanders and his family, who we have been in contact with to apologize to, as well as facilitate an apology directly from Jax to the Sanders family. We have also been in contact with the NFL and will continue to cooperate fully with any inquiries we may receive from the NFL League office. We are thoroughly reviewing all protocols and updating if necessary to help prevent the incident like this from happening again. So basically nothing's happening. And that's the problem. I don't think nothing should happen. I'm not here to say they need to take the Falcons' next 2 first-round picks. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that Jax Ulbrich needs to go to jail. I'm not saying anything like that. But I'm saying that his actions need to have a consequence. And there should be a deterrent. There should be a deterrent, and there should be a more emphasis on data securing your data. Why the fuck is your son walking past the iPad and then all the numbers are out in the open? Seems like you got to protect the information from your own family. And that sucks because your son decided to be an asshole one day. I think Jeff Ulbrich should have got fined. I think something should happen to whoever is responsible. But you can't really necessarily punish Jax Ulbrich, so it got to fall on his dad. You raised that little mother. You raised him. You raised that idiot. It is your responsibility. The NFL has stated that they are looking into it, so this might not be the end of it. There may be more to come this week. We're staying on top of this topic for sure because I didn't like what came of it. All right, that's enough for all the Shedeur Sanders talk, man. I'm glad he's in the NFL. I can't wait to see him work, but we gotta wrap some of this up with some NFL all-field fire, right? Now, Saquon Barkley has got fans in a frenzy. So, basically, Saquon Barkley takes Air Force One with Donald Trump. He goes out to the White House a day early before the Eagles visit the White House. Now, the Eagles are visiting the White House because why? They won the Super Bowl. Now, the controversy lies because Saquon Barkley is going golfing with Trump, having lunch with Trump. And a lot of black people kind of disapproved of these activities, disapproved of Saquon's choices to hang out with President Donald Trump. He golfed with Trump at Bedminster. before the Eagles' White House visit, right? A lot of people on X, they categorize him as out of touch, accusing him of being some sort of disloyal. Now, disloyal to who? Disloyal to your is he being disloyal to your beliefs, or is he being disloyal to the black community? Who is he being disloyal to? And so in light of the controversy, this is what Saquon Barkley had to say about this. LOL. Some people are really upset because I played golf and flew to the White House with the president. Maybe. I just respect the office. Not a hard concept to understand. Just golfed with Obama not too long ago. And look forward to finishing my round with Trump. Now, y'all get out of my mentions with all this politics and have an amazing day. But just in 2020, they highlighted one of Saquon's tweets. The protests are amazing and inspiring. But please, in 2 or 3 weeks, when the protests are no longer happening, we still need change. We need to come together as a community. And we need action. Racism and injustice cannot exist. Now, here's my thing. Is this a switch up? I'm not defending anything. I have some questions to ask. Now, is this a switch up, or is this just somebody that in 2020 accepted the racism that's been happening in his face and the injustices that's been happening in his face, and he chose to not ignore it, right? And then this is also a guy that hangs with Trump. Is it a switch up, or can both things be true? Can both things work hand in hand? But I gotta highlight when he says, I just respect the office, and then he adds, I just golfed with Obama not too long ago. Like, so he's trying to lay out some level of equal footing of just liking presidents. That's his thing. That's what he wants you to believe. But then, some people call BS. Some people call BS to what Saquon is saying, because he's saying, well, look who you married. Now, I don't know what that has to do. But they say, look who you married. Saquon Barkley is married to a white woman who's had some controversy of some old tweets being drawn up, some questionable tweets. Some tweets include the N-word included in it. One tweet, she says that she enjoyed calling her mom the N-word. I'm smiling because it's funny. I don't know why she would find enjoyment in calling her mom. But I don't know. Back then, Twitter was a wild time. People used to just tweet things, and you were a kid. No, I don't know. I don't give the benefit of the doubt. I don't know what reason you have to make tweets like that. I'll be honest with you. I don't categorize any of that stuff as young and dumb. I don't. I'm sorry. To me, I feel like the tweet comes off just a little bit toned down, because he just can't see why fans may feel a way about him hanging out with a potential rapist, a man that's been impeached a few times. Donald Trump has a not so wonderful track record. He's had some hiccups, and a lot of people will question, why would you want to golf with this guy? And for a lot of people, they question Barkley's values and they question his blackness. Like, for a lot of fans, it's hard to separate the man from the player when some fans look up to him. Some fans see themselves in him. They're motivated by him. To them, he's the football player and Saquon Barkley. He's one. It's hard to separate. Some have called it a betrayal. But all of this just leads me to an even more bigger question, right? Now, is it possible? Just hear me out. Walk with me, people. Is it possible you can visit the White House without supporting the administration? Can't Barkley just want recognition for his title without actually agreeing with Trump's values or aligning with Trump's values. I'm not saying that he is or isn't aligning. I'm just trying to make a separation. Is it possible to just want the chance to go to the White House and be celebrated in front of your nation for reaching the pinnacle, achieving the pinnacle of your profession, of your sport? Why does a White House visit mean that you align with the administration? And I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. It's more I just want a real solid discourse on this. Why can't I just go and be celebrated for my achievements when I go to the White House? I don't need to like anything that Trump did. How do you know these athletes haven't wanted to do this their whole life? But for some black people and for some black players, they probably feel shamed. For some people, they are not even very political. Who knows when they'll have the chance of being recognized at the White House? Do they have to then wait another 4 years? 4 years for athletes, that's a long time. I think we should be revisiting where we place our anger. But hey, I'm not the spokesman. But yeah, it's time to basically wrap this episode up. Thank you to all my listeners. That's a wrap. Huddle fam, big shout out. Thank you for rocking with me. I'm your boy, Don Duke. We broke down the Cavs game. We broke down the Warriors, Rockets thriller. Shedeur sliding in the draft. And we just touched on Saquon and his political decisions. Tap in with me. Let me know what you think about everything. Should the NFL find the Falcons? Hit us up. Tune in next time. We'll dive more into the playoff heat and what's going on in the NFL once again. Don't miss it. It's Don Deuce signing off. I'm out of here.